already. So that one works at least.
Hey folks, welcome to another episode of the Security Table podcast. My name is Chris Romeo. I am joined by Matt Coles and his pack of dogs. Also, Izar Tarandosh on assignment in the forest somewhere, where he'll be reporting on the weather conditions in the forest and the music scene and a number of other.
I can hear Charlie.
Oh, that's got to be a flashback to a movie like Platoon or something like that. So, it's been an interesting week, and I guess it's an old curse. Maybe you live in interesting times, I think. Black Hat DEF CON just wrapped up as we're recording this podcast, and we have a statement that was made, that a place that we're going to start. And so CISA has gotten a lot of attention on the security table. We've analyzed a lot of the things that they put out and tried to stay as positive as possible, some of us more than others on the positivity side. But Jen Easterly, who is, Director of the Homeland Security Department's Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency, who I refer to as CISA, came out and made a statement at Black Hat. And it was a very groundbreaking statement. She says, and I quote, "We don't have a cybersecurity problem. We have a software quality problem." And I'll read the next line because there was another quote. "We have a multi-billion-dollar cybersecurity industry because for decades, technology vendors have been allowed to create defective, insecure, flawed software." So let's start with the quality thing. I don't feel like this is the first time I've heard this statement. What about you guys?
I feel like she's probably a listener of this podcast.
Yes.
secretly a listener of the security table, because she's like, what are they saying about us now?
Yeah.
See if we can make some changes.
Yeah, this is, why should cybersecurity be different? Why does it need to be different? And I guess companies have made it different for a long time. We see this all over the place. But why? We often talk about, if you think about quality, we're talking about, does a thing function the way it's expected to function? And does it not do things it shouldn't be doing? And gee, where have we heard that term before? Right? So when you have security issues and you have something doing something it shouldn't be doing, having a side effect or having extra functions that it isn't supposed to have, like, say, the ability to execute code remotely, then that sounds like a quality problem. That sounds exactly like what we would want quality to find. Why do we make security differently?
Isn't it funny, though, that quality doesn't exist? Like, QA stands for quality assurance.
Yes.
And
there's a whole organization and function called quality engineering.
But most places don't have it anymore.
Yeah, we spoke about this a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah,
the name is there,
gone
but
away.
the function doesn't exist anymore.
Right? Yeah, and so I have to chuckle about the statement because I first heard this from leadership at Cisco back in, let's say, 2007, 2008. There was Cisco did a big quality push, and people started saying, and maybe it was a little bit later than that, maybe it was in the 2010s or so, around there, people started saying security is a quality problem, was the statement that was made. And so I don't feel like this is groundbreaking by any stretch. Like, this is something that we've been talking about for decades. But before we started recording, Izar asked a great question, which we didn't answer, so we'll do it now. Why are we still making this statement 15 years later, and it doesn't feel like anything's really changed?
Because it is still a quality, if I may, Izar, it is still a quality problem. The statement is still true. The problem is we've sort of, a lot of organizations have either divested of quality or changed their definition and their capability for quality. As you mentioned, right, a lot of teams don't have a quality engineer on staff. right? They rely on developers to inject quality into the code that they are writing themselves, by the way. Quality engineering used to be a check and balance against developers, right? You had somebody who wrote the code and somebody who tested the code. And that way, you don't get a developer writing a code, testing the code, and checking the code in and pushing it to prod without knowledge of some assurance, right?
And it is a shame that we've done away with that. The more I think about this issue, the more I think we missed something. When DevOps came on the scene and it all became about it's the historical problem was it's dev versus ops, devs throwing things over the wall. And somehow, I don't even know how this happened, but somehow quality assurance got dropped in that typhoon of DevOps hitting the scene.
Izar?
So yeah, I'm okay. So I'm going to take a bit of liberty here and paraphrase her. We don't have a quality problem. We have a people problem. All the issues that we are seeing in my humble view are self-inflicted, and they come from the points where we said that's the biggest value in in any industry that does software or even hardware is to get to market first. The one that gets to market first wins the race. And over that race, we as professionals, as people, not only we became ready to drop those things that we saw as hindrances to being the first, we also started making a number of assumptions that turned out to be invalid. And we came up with a number of hopes that turned out to be invalid. So the assumptions that we seem to have made are that developers are not only able to write perfect code, they are also able to test that code and to bless that code by themselves without any other help. And we have put into ourselves the hope that security is something that can be easily fixed with a silver bullet, some amazing tool that you're going to run on the system once it's ready to go to market. And 15 minutes before you press deploy, it's going to fix all your security issues. So I think that quality is a huge demonstrator of the problem, but it's not the cause. And
so what if we took this a step further and said, now let me extend your people problem and see if you agree or disagree with this. We have a people problem and a technology problem. Yes, the people don't have the ability to create secure code. Hence, if we go back to the beginning assumption or presumption that quality code is secure code, if we have a people problem, I would argue we also have a technology problem, because I think part of the challenge here is that we thought technology was going to provide that check and balance before what QA did. We thought our SaaS tools and our SCA tools and things were going to help us get around not having QA anymore. I don't think anybody did that deliberately, but I'm just kind of, thought experiment, kind of working this out live. But what do you guys think? I mean, do we have a people and technology problem or just a people problem?
I think we have it's bigger than that, but as soon as you start going bigger than that, it starts to snowball. We have a people, we have a technology, we have a process, we have an organizational, we have a market problem. We have all of those things, right? We have technology that's hard to get right? We have unclear requirements and understanding of things and a plethora of patterns and styles and mechanisms. And then you have a rush to market, right? We've taken the iron triangle of resources, time, of people, time, and functionality, and made it like a dodecahedron or a sphere of lots of different points. And it's really hard to balance all of these things. We have created this monster. I guess we tried to The whole using tools to fix the problem comes from flawed assumptions about the nature of the problem, right? And it is only now that things are starting to line up, right? Computing resources were what they were a decade or 20 years ago. And now you have, memory safe languages and things that are able to be self-healing or self-protecting. There's a lot of overhead in all of that, right? Remember when C++ happened? Remember from C to C++, and
I'm
as soon as you
actively
had
trying to forget that.
you had exception handling and stack unwinding and a whole bunch of other things that were just adding performance bottlenecks, right? But all of the defensive features that we now have are performance bottlenecks, among other things, right? And it's a whole web of things. I mean, think of Heartbleed, right? OpenSSL and the TLS, the stack that runs TLS and the state machine required in order to manage all the connections and everything. It's just super complex. And so we tried a lot of bolt-on solutions over time. Only recently, we've had an opportunity to make it easier for developers to write secure code, which means they can now concentrate on quality. Although we've now taken quality out of the picture. And so, I mean, now we start a new cascade.
I like the way that you put it in the snowball framework, but I think that it's even a step further. I think that it's recursive. I think that because it's a people created problem, when we generate new technology, it carries the problem of the people who created it. And then that goes to the next step and forward.
So it's technical debt to the nth power.
Yeah. Well, and
That's
on top of technical, sorry, Izar, just the technical debt side. Oh, by the way, all of these organizations that have been pushing stuff to market and have backlogs. I mean,
Exactly.
There's a stack of backlog. Where did all that go? Who's addressing the technical debt? And by the way, that technical debt isn't necessarily just security problems. It's quality defects. It's refactoring waiting to happen. And it's just digging a hole, and at some point, because nobody starts over, or very few
Isn't that
start
the
over.
nature of software, though?
No,
Like,
let me put it like this. People will put much more time and money into A/B testing for the right color of the background of the column on the side of the application than they are going to go into solving technical debt.
Well, because
Or which browser you're going to support.
Yeah, but but it all comes down to what helps you sell more products. At the
No,
end of the day.
okay, that's a very interesting way of putting things, because if you gave the option to a customer saying, I have X time, I can either put it into getting just the right shade of blue or into solving this thing that can put your data in jeopardy in these edge cases. But nobody asks the customer, because we have a bunch of product managers out there who will look at technical people and say, we know the customer. We are the customer. Within the customer. And no, you haven't. No, you aren't, because you keep creating the same problems again and again and again. And not to paraphrase Einstein, you people are mad. You just keep doing the same thing again and again and again, expecting something different.
It's the definition of insanity.
So that's a great segue into the other part of this conversation, is when do customers start asking for security over that different shade of blue?
We should, just to set that up. So CISA came out with a secure by demand guide, which I just a few minutes ago figured out they mean demand in the buying something perspective. Because when I first saw that, I was like, secure by demand, is that like, I mean, like, is it something that just happens? Like, you think about it and then you raise your fist and then the thing locks down or something?
Have you never heard the term demand plan? You never heard demand planning?
No, I don't do any demand planning. I make a lot of demands in life. Don't get me wrong. I understand that side of the equation, but I don't actually plan it. It happens in the moment where I'm like, wanting whatever I want. So
Yeah.
okay, so
Yeah.
secure by
So,
demand.
so the CISA is secure by demand, right? So when customers are acquiring software or systems, CISA's, so this came out of the executive order of the Biden presidential directive on cybersecurity and the executive order that went with it. And, there was a call for organizations that were building products to take ownership on behalf of their customers of security. And so now we have the flip side of that is getting customers to demand more from their suppliers and providing a guide for suppliers to be able to acquire and ask for security in the systems that they're purchasing. Izar's on the move.
My battery is about to die.
A roving consultant is losing power. So I guess, Matt, if we set this document up, I'm looking at it right now. I grabbed the PDF version. There was like a web version that I think was a tiny bit more of a summary. It looks like there's a little more detail in the PDF itself. And so it is broken down. The meat of the PDF is the software manufacturer questions section. And then under that, it has various headings like general questions, authentication, eliminating classes of vulns, evidence of intrusion. So it tracks with the secure by design guidance that we've seen so far.
Yeah, exactly. So the secure by design was telling suppliers, vendors how to secure their systems. And now the demand guide is telling customers how to ask for those things to ensure that they get done.
But it is still not addressing the problem. Because
let's tear this thing up.
It's going to address the problem. It's going to try and address the problem through money, right?
But here's the wrong thing. It's assuming that customers will come and actually demand security. You know when customers are going to demand security? When we start selling software by $39.99. But if you want the really secure option, the plus the premium, you're going to have to pay $45.
Yeah, but that's already, the market's already shown that doesn't work. And
yeah, we're already past that.
My piece of evidence to that is, I don't know if you've seen the backlash against people who try to charge for single sign-on as a premium.
No, I didn't.
Feature.
I totally missed it.
It's been a big brouhaha in SaaS. Because what some people would do is they put the single sign-on option like in their enterprise tier, and then their first tier doesn't. And so the argument is base security should not be something you have to pay an ultimate premium to gain. And in the market today, single sign-on is table stakes. It's not something that's got a lot of innovation.
And by the way, that was in the executive order. If you recall, the executive order said organizations should not demand more for security.
And that's great, but it goes against the psychology of the buyer. If people are not thinking that they're paying more for a premium thing that just they are getting and not everybody else, they're not going to go for that. And if we don't give an economic incentive to quality and security, companies are not going to go back and rehire the QA people and develop that capability again.
Yeah, but
well, so here's a bigger problem that I think we're missing something, right? We're talking about enterprise software. The security problem isn't just with enterprise software. How many free apps do you have on your phone?
Oh, I'm totally talking consumer. I'm totally talking consumer.
Unless it's from a reputable source, I don't have any.
Either way, though, you can have those free apps, and the security problem isn't with the app, or isn't with that app, right? It may be a data collector, it may be an aggregator, it may be a host of other things in the whole supply chain or infrastructure, right? I mean,
you're an Android user. You're an Android user, aren't you?
I am.
Okay.
Yes.
I can tell because in the Apple ecosystem, that I don't think those problems exist because of the way they've isolated. They've isolated a lot of things so that you can't do things as easily as you can in the. That's a whole. We should have a different episode on that.
1.9 billion people were affected by the national data breach recently. I'm pretty sure your records are in there somewhere.
I gave
in
up
there
worrying
somewhere.
about data breaches about 15
So,
years ago because
that-
all our
that's-
information is out there. Just live with it,
But,
deal with
but
it.
the fact that you're on Apple doesn't matter. Right.
and with
Maybe
that in
those
mind,
apps, those individual apps may be more secure because they're isolated, but your data in the back end, all bets are off still.
and they managed to isolate the fact that you lose 70% of the functionality that we have on Android for free, and Apple has to pay for it every 3 years, right? So that's an isolation that's completely different.
Yeah.
But hey, let's not fanboy here.
I mean, the
Says-
only
says the
advantage
one-
of Apple is that it just works.
So,
So
says
I've
the
had
one who probably has
don't worry, I've
both
had
of them.
Android before, and they were trash devices
For
that you had
different-
to be a system
Different
administrator.
definitions of work.
Yeah, exactly.
It's free
Hey,
as in freedom.
Enjoy being a sysadmin for your phone. That's what I would tell you as an Android user.
I was thinking the other day, I haven't rooted my phone in years, like I think double-digit years. Why? Because Android just works.
Just works. Just
No, that's
works.
because you're getting older. That's what.
That's true.
It's
That
not
works.
it's not as exciting anymore. No, I mean it's the same thing. Like the more gray hair we get, the less exciting things like rooting a phone become.
And all of a sudden, I'm depressed.
That was
Go
not
hack
the
your
intention.
3D
All right,
Go hack your
let's
3D printer.
let's tear this document up. Okay, here we go.
That's my
Let me
vacation.
just tell you the first thing that jumps off the page at me. I love it. There's a little box in the top right. It says artifacts you can collect from a software manufacturer. A software bill of materials SBOM that lists third-party software components used by the product.
Yay.
Why can't we just say something about how you should actually use it? One more
Because-
sentence, please.
Because you know what else you collect? You collect stamps, you collect coins. You just keep them somewhere.
That's the bloody problem with this is that it's like collecting stamps. And I just did an AppSec podcast episode with Steve Springett where he enlightened me on all things Cyclone DX, and I got back on board with it. But then I see something like this, and it's like, just tell people that and use this to better understand your risk from those third parties that you're doing business with and decide if you want. Yeah, see? Exactly.
But it
the
doesn't really
problem
do
is
that. It doesn't do that.
The problem is you're going to use it to feel good about the fact that you have it, because it's not going to enlighten you on the risk that you're carrying, because
Right.
nobody reads the thing and goes, that's ML2. You
Well,
just
but also,
have it.
also because just because a component is in the SBOM doesn't necessarily mean it's being used. It doesn't necessarily mean it's being used directly or indirectly. That it's been securely deployed, that it's been securely configured, that it isn't full of holes that have yet to be discovered.
Oh, but there are tools for that, right?
Okay, we're back to that whole QA thing, right?
Yeah. Okay, so then if we keep going, so here we go. Let me pick on this again because we just got to get the picking on out of the way here. General questions, the first section, the first one, has the manufacturer taken CISA's Secure by Design pledge? What progress reports has the manufacturer published in line with its commitments to the pledge? Are they trying to create their own certification stamp for our industry and just kind of like guilt people into being a part of it?
Is this like there's other common pledges for some cultures. This is completely voluntary, and really you're gonna ask people to do the pledge?
I
Really?
just keep asking myself, how many times is it going to happen that something goes boom and somebody looks around and said, but they promised.
I never thought of it that way. But they promised, as you have a little tear coming down your cheek.
So yeah. So what do you do? So what do you do if somebody is signs up to the pledge and then boom happens?
Yeah, there's nothing. There's no ramifications. There's no liability. There's nothing here other than I feel sad because they didn't.
There isn't even public shaming. There isn't even public shaming, is there?
No.
What happens when they get a central idea from threat modeling and start saying my pledge is not your pledge?
It's true. That is
Threat
true.
modeling we should have a threat modeling for pledgeworthy.
We should threat model pledges.
Stay tuned for the next episode. where we threat model a pledge. Okay, there's another section here, authentication. Products should support secure authentication. Love it. Should do single sign-on, should do multi-factor, or other phishing-resistant forms of authentication like passkeys. Leave that one alone based on our last episode's conversation. Have they eliminated default passwords? Like all of these, I mean, there's none of these things we're going to argue with. You got maybe the passkeys we could argue with a little bit or something, but this is all stuff we've been saying for years, and it's stuff that's in the Secure by Design original doc.
Yeah, and by the way, this is what probably large organizations that have fully vetted and fully capable supply chains already do. Right. So who's this document targeted at? Is this targeted at the 17-year-old who's downloading an app onto their phone?
I don't think so.
Or is this targeted at a mid-sized business that doesn't have a security team on staff?
I think it's targeted at the next big startup that's going to change the world, but leave security as a bolt-on for the end of the thing. You know, when it's deployed and people are buying and actually demanding security.
So next section is eliminating classes of vulnerabilities. Let's rehash this again. I feel like we spent almost a whole episode tearing this concept apart, but it's back again. So the question they say is, what classes of vulnerability has the software manufacturer systematically addressed in their products? For those that they haven't addressed, do they have a roadmap showing how they plan to eliminate those classes of vulnerabilities? So, for example, like consistently enforcing the use of parameterized queries to prevent SQL injection attacks.
So this guy ties back to their secure by design guides, you know, the SQL injection, buffer flow, cross-site scripting guides.
What does this mean, systematically addressed? Like,
wait, before we go there, I just had a small realization here. As you were reading it, I had a bit of a deja vu. We heard this before, and then Matt mentioned it goes back to the same. This is the third time that we are reading the same document, the same content. It just started as, here's some guidelines, here's a pledge, and now here's how you ask for it, how you demand it. But it's exactly the same content. It's just being packaged in different ways that people can come and address the lack of it.
You know what? It's brilliant. If that was intentional, it's brilliant. Because it gets the concepts in front of the suppliers, the buyers, and the people in between, right? The pledge is just fluff. But I mean, if you have consistent content, consistent messaging, and it's not boiling the ocean, right? You're not MITRE with a CWE framework of, you know, hundreds of weaknesses, or the MITRE attack framework with hundreds of ways of getting in and techniques and mitigations, and you start small. It's actually pretty genius, right? Get a start on something, get some quick wins, maybe quick wins. It doesn't solve a problem, but it does reduce the problem to some extent, right? A little bit. All right. It's baby steps. To your point, Chris, about, so what does this mean? So if you have a SaaS application, right? If your product is a SaaS application, you have addressed SQL injection throughout. You have addressed cross-site scripting throughout. As a product organization, if you have one product and you do it in one product, great. If you have hundreds of products, systematic is very challenging, right? Because every product is probably developed differently, and you have to address it in a way that includes, you know, making sure all your developers know how to do SQL, to mitigate SQL injection, and have a coding standard, and have tools looking for that coding standard.
Yeah, you need a guardrail.
Exactly. You need a paved road and a guardrail.
Well, now paved. So remember, when we say paved, when I think of a paved road is something I give you as a developer that makes your life easier.
So here you may get a database. You may have a database access layer that's already been pre-written that already addresses SQL.
Yeah, that's true. I guess you could approach it that way if you were like a single product startup. I think that's a lot easier than if you're 100 product enterprise to say, just because we know how enterprise products are assembled, right? I bought this one from this company over here. I bought this one from this company over here. It's, if people think that when a company acquires a product via mergers and acquisitions, that they rewrite that thing from scratch in their system, that ain't how it happens. They take it in, they say, well, guess what? Now we have two source code control systems. One of them is GitHub and one of them is Bitbucket. And then 10 years later, we'll hopefully bring them together, and there'll be this magical moment where all this source code now is in one place. But while we did that, we acquired 3 other companies. And so now we have 5 source code control systems. We have 3 software development life cycles and a partridge in a pear tree.
Right. And oh, by the way, that technical debt may or may not have come over with this.
Oh no, it came and it 10x'd once it landed.
No.
It met all the other technical debt. They made more.
The documentation of the technical debt of what was there. So the Jira backlogs may not have come across.
True. Nobody ever ports those over. Just let those delete. Oops.
I'm sorry, but just going back to the people problem, you forget that once you go into mergers and acquisitions, one man's technical debt is another man's job security.
There's a t-shirt idea. Right? Add
They're
that to the
features.
t-shirt
They're
pile.
features, not bugs. They're features, not bugs.
Good.
Yeah. All right. So I think you had a bit of an epiphany here, Izar. I think you're onto something here. This is the same information repackaged 3 times. I will agree that it's brilliant only when I see the industry having changed in 3 to 5 years from now. If there's no measurable change in 3 to 5 years, then this is all just noise that's being.
So I'm going to
Yelled up.
Cassandra it, and I'm going to say this is not going to change anything. This is going to make a lot of people feel very, very good, warm in their tummies. This is not going to change anything.
How much does it have to change in order to be measurable and meaningful?
Yeah, I like
This is a
meaningful better.
This is a serious question, right? How do we judge meaningful change, right? If an organization eliminates all SQL injections, but you still have data breaches because a database lives out on the internet or it's caught up in a data aggregator, has it been meaningful change? How do you measure this?
Okay, so this is going to sound funny, but it comes with a measure of seriousness. I think that's the moment we can lower the rate of WTF per minute when we are looking at systems. Then you know that thing changes. Okay. It still happens to me that I look at things that have been developed 10 years ago, 5 years ago, 2 years ago, 2 weeks ago, and I go, no, seriously, what was somebody thinking when they did this?
Yeah.
And with a bit of thought, you figure out that they were thinking of good things, but without the quality and without security and without the commitment to make something better. They just want to make something fast that's going to sell.
And I'll go a step further and say, I don't think there's going to be any measurable or meaningful change as a result of any of this stuff until we reach the point where we have to go foundational here. So if you want to eliminate SQL injections, you have to take out the ability for non-parameterized queries to be done at all. You have to put some type of technology in place that just doesn't let it happen. That's the only way you can systematically
Are you talking
address.
about a Rust for SQL? Is that what you're asking for?
I don't know what I'm asking for a concept. Izar is going to spell it out for me here.
Yeah, actually, I'm going to go one step further, Chris. I think that we are at that inflection point.
Really?
Okay. And we do have an opportunity right here. It's going to be missed, and we're going to kick ourselves in the butt in a couple of years about it. But now that everybody is moving towards having a coding assistant in their pocket or in the window next to their code, wouldn't it be wonderful if all these AI copilots and shit would actually write secure code and tell you, no, don't do that query that way. Use this ORM thing. The problem is that because the thing is recursive, whatever we are creating nowadays to do that stuff does not do it. So we could go foundational right now and create a new foundation where those things that we say, oh, developers don't have the time, don't have the training, don't have the interest for those things. All these AI copilots could easily solve the problem because they could be the what's the name of the thing from Pinocchio? The green, it's not a grasshopper. What is it? The conscience of Pinocchio? Yeah.
Jiminy Cricket.
Cricket. AI copilots could take that role, right? And be the guy saying, hey, you know what? That's a nice line of code, but I don't think that you should write it just like that. Perhaps.
Oh my God, Clippy for code, huh? No.
This is different from Clippy. This is different from Clippy. Okay. My God, every time that somebody says Clippy, I go back to that joke about the suicide letter. Anyway. But no,
it's a great idea. You're assuming that AI is going to take on that role, right?
That's a given. Okay. it's going to happen. People are going to use it more and more until the whole thing implodes on itself because
The code
new
is so
models are going
crappy
to
that
be new models are
it's
going
worse
to be
than having
trained
developers write it by
on
themselves.
AI generated crap, right?
Yeah.
But
Or
if you're
you're
talking about-
consuming 95% of your CPU and storage for the AI model so that you can write good code.
right?
You can't compile and run.
But we are at that inflection point where we might have an opportunity to do something better because people are talking so much about changing the way that they do things, right? We in the security field, we have been asking developers for years, for decades, to change the way that they do things. But there was never, we may have been trying to do this with tools, like all kinds of linters and static code analysis and all that good stuff. Because we are saying, okay, we are going to point out what's wrong, and we hope that the next time that you write it, you're going to write it. Which is not the case,
Oops.
unfortunately. We
Didn't
don't.
happen.
Here we have this opportunity to actually change the way that people do things to a better way. But I go back to what I said in the beginning. It's a people problem, and it's not going to change.
But
So
on the technology side, though, I still need a guardrail that prevents non-parameterized queries from even being possible. For this to be systematically addressed, it has to be eliminated at the source where it can't be possible. So if you do it as a developer, the system just doesn't allow that query to run. It just firewalls it off.
Until the point where Joe Primadonna, the chief architect of whatever it is.com, is going to come and say that framework is impinging on our creativity and we cannot 10x our objectives and achieve synergy with the world because we can't do queries the way
people
that
are
we
going
want.
the other way. People are going
Okay.
the other way. People are not going to throw away the frameworks at this point because they save you. Like, are you going to build your own React JavaScript front end engine because it'll take you longer than it does to build the product to build your own front end?
Until Joe Primadonna decides that building the next React is going to be that thing that's going to make their name out there.
Yeah,
and
but
prepare them for
Jane,
the next job.
CEO and business person, is going to say, no, we're not spending 10x the money to build something that you want. Use the framework that's been provided.
Or they'll come and say, dear investors, we have Joe Primadonna and he is developing this whole completely new React paradigm and it's going to change the industry. And we don't have to do anything. We just have to let their creativity go and do its thing. The problem is that the arguments in here, they go both ways, right? But at the end of the day, you have people trying to push, product out there. And the incentives for pushing product are that you either need it or you think you need it. And those are the realities, the economic realities that we as security people, or even as quality people, have to fight against.
Yeah. All right, Matt, give you the final word here. Izar and I have been talking nonstop for 5 minutes. So final word.
Well, since we're coming down to the end of the episode, I want to throw out a concept here just as a bombshell idea. Of all thinking back to the quality problem, with all the money that security teams and security developer training and CISOs and whatnot are getting in terms of funding, which admittedly wasn't a lot and now is ramping up to be a lot. What kind of a coup would it have been if the director of quality or VP of quality engineering had said, I'm going to take on security as a quality problem. Give me that money and tackle it. We'd have quality engineering still as a function and they'd be tackling security.
Yeah.
Just a thought.
It's an alternate universe kind of a thought experiment.
Where would that be? Where would we be today if quality had tackled security and not, it's different, don't talk to me?
Save that for next episode. That's a good one. I want to explore that one in more depth. I don't want to just touch the surface here. I think we should dive into that. And let's play alternate universe where things happened differently 10, 15 years ago, and then brainstorm what it would look like today.
We'll be doing A/B testing on the color blue.
And with that, folks, we'll close this episode of the Security Table. We recommend hope that you'll sit around and also ponder A/B testing of the color blue.